Happy New Year! Oh, that made you all jump, didn't it? Happy New Year! Give us a wave if you can hear us. Fabulous. Thank you. It's lovely to be back, I have to say. I ended up having a bit longer off over Christmas than I was expecting to, with a little bit of a family emergency, but we're all good and back ready to, do some amazing stuff in 2023. So thank you so much for joining me today. And you know what, it's really lovely is from the pictures on the screen, I only recognise 2 of you from other classes. So it's lovely that new customers are coming through and getting involved with the Quirky Bird tins, which I'm really excited about. So I thought this time we would do something a little bit different. I thought we'd work on an art journal page. And when I first saw art journaling, I was like, I'm not sure I get it. But actually, it's kind of the same ethos as the tins. You're going and making something and being creative just because you can. But you could take a section of an art journal page and make it into a card, or you could create an art journal background and put it in a tin, because it doesn't always have to be with the papers that come with your collections, which I think is really cool. So I've got 4 of the tins here, and what I'm going to do is get Andrew to give the photographs to our social media guru, which isn't me, definitely isn't me, our lovely Di, and get her to put the pictures of the tins on the Quirky Bird Facebook page. So if you haven't joined, please do, because it'll be a really creative space this year. And then I want to show you the next one, which launches tomorrow, which I think is really fun. Right, so I'm going to move these tins out of the way so we've got some space to work. And I've got quite a big mixed media pad here. I get mine online. They are, let me tell you what they are and then you know if you want to buy one. They are Strathmore mixed media pad. And this is a 300 GSM and it's 11 by 14 inches and it's £90. Oh, sorry, 190 GSM. But it's a really nice quality paper to work on, and it's different to watercolor card in that if you've got watercolor card, because the fibers are more open, the color moves more, whereas on a mixed media you can still do all the messy stuff, but it kind of, you're more in control of it a little bit, I think is probably the best way of describing it. Now, ages ago, like probably nearly a year ago now, I created a stencil in Canvas Workspace with my Scan and Cut. But I'm sure if you're into your art journaling, you've got stencils of some sort or other. But this was one that I created just using squares and creating frames, which is really cool. And we're going to do a lot more with Scan and Cut this year. Not necessarily in cooperation with Quirky Bird, although there is an SVG USB coming out. I said I was never going to do one, and I will probably get absolutely lynched on social media when we launch it. But sometimes you just have to bend to what the customers want. And that's exactly what we've done. So yeah, going forward, we will do 6 collections on one USB. So that's cool as well. But for creating your own stencils, it's brilliant. So if you sit there and you're doing a project and you suddenly think, oh, I need a stencil of squares to create a background, you can make one, which is a joy. Right, so let's get on with the Quirky Bird bit. So the reason that I'm using the square one is, and this is what I also wanted to do today, is use up some of the bits that I had left over, so the pieces that you cut out with your rectangles, but also using some of the waste bits that are left behind. So we brought you the keyhole aperture dies with this one. If you turn it upside down, it looks like that bottle that's on there. So it gives you that really nice cylindrical bottle, a bit like you used to put in a Bunsen burner when you were at school, then pour things in that exploded. But yes, I think this is a really nice one to add in, and using some of the smaller elements that come out to create a page, because you're not going to throw those away, you want to do something with it. So whether you're into your paints or whether you're into your inks, it really doesn't matter. We're going to start, I'm going to use Distress Oxides today. Normally I would probably use Cadence Paint, but I just haven't had the time to make that happen. But I like ink, because I think if you're new to something like art journaling, and if you're new to mixed media and that messy kind of crafting, ink is familiar. And I think if you're trying something new, to bring it within your comfort zone, if you add something that's familiar, a product, a tool, whatever it is, it makes it a little bit less scary. So I thought we'd start by doing this. So I'm going to use Festive Berries, first of all, which is the red from the Distress Oxide range. And I'm just going to lay loads of colour down on here, but I'm going to work in kind of an order. So I'm going to use my blending brushes because I love blending brushes. These desperately need cleaning, but they're really good. Could never get on with those on a wooden handle with a sponge. Never got a seamless blend. Whereas with a brush, I think they're fabulous. So I'm going to start and add red first of all, okay? And when I'm thinking about where I'm putting the colour, I'm thinking about threes. So I'm creating what we call a design triangle, which will draw the eye through the page. So it makes you look all over the place. You want to find where the next red bit is and the next green bit. Whether you do it consciously or subconsciously, that's what odd numbers make you do. If you use even numbers and create symmetry, it creates interest and it creates balance, but it also means that you kind of look at the picture as a whole rather than searching through it for all the different things that you can find in it. It's a really interesting little theory when you go into, you know, colour and layout and design and things like that. It's really interesting. So I've got my red down now. I'm going to go in for a blue and I'm going to use Speckled Egg, which is quite a light colour, because as I start to mix other colours with this and add a little bit more in, it's going to, you know, as I go over the red, it's going to darken it a little bit and make it a little bit purpley. And I've pulled in the colours from the papers that were in the collection. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more of that and I'm going to pop some over here. And it doesn't matter where you put the colour, as long as you mix it up a little bit. I'm going to go in with Stormy Sky as well and just add a bit of this, because on the, let me just grab a tin that's suitable. Here you can see you've got quite a lot of blue in a lot of the pictures. And if it's not in this one, it's in the sky or something like that. So I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of that. In fact, I'm going to pick up a teal brush and see if I can get that a little bit more teal turquoisey, kind of a little bit more depth to it. And I do enjoy doing things like this. I never thought I would, but I actually do. And stenciling was never a thing for me. I wasn't into my messy crafting and stuff like that. And then when we went to Cadence in Turkey and we did their training academy course, they used a lot of stencils. So it was like, right, you've just got to get over it, Melanie, and get on with it basically. But it was lovely because it's one of those that when you're doing it, it looks like a right royal mess. But actually, when you take the stencil away, it looks fabulous. So it's a real, you know, kind of a bit of a buzz actually when you do that, which I like. Right, so I'm going to go in with green now. And I'm just going to, this is Mowed Lawn. So the blues were Speckled Egg and Stormy Sky. And now I'm going in with the green. Because on all of the pictures, apart from the ones that are black and white with the blue in, there's green in them. So I'm bringing the colours in that are actually in the papers. So coordination is already happening, which is good. And it's the same when I remember as a teenager, when we used to go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night, you always had to have the outfit, and you had to have the handbag and the shoes to match. So it's kind of like that. I don't do that now, but I used to when I was younger. It was all about, everything had to match. Couldn't go out on a Friday night with just random stuff. So I'm just going in now. Now, to keep this stencil flat, can you see, this stencil is quite old now and it's starting to lift here. So if you get a little bit on a stencil like that, go in the direction rather than against the direction of the stencil itself and just blend that colour in. Now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow and I'm going to use mustard seed. They do scatter straw and they do another one that I can't remember the name of, but the mustard seed is a really deep yellow. It's lovely. It's almost like a sunflower yellow. It's really pretty. And then of course, once I start to add the yellow over the blue, I'll get a different shade of green. So it's just about taking the things that you've already got, like stencils, and just having a play around. And I love doing stuff like this. It's really rewarding, I think. I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in there. I'm not worried about going over the red. I'm just going to build up this background and just enjoy the process. You know, you don't need to rush it. There's no, nobody's going to come in and say, that's taken you half an hour. So what? It's half an hour. It always makes me laugh when people say, oh, you can do all these cards in a really quick, short space of time. And I'm like, but that's not really why we craft. Unless you make to sell, and then that's different. But we actually craft just to forget all the rubbish that's going on in the world, and there's a lot of it, and just be quiet. Just let your head be quiet. I think that's really important. So we're going to go in here and we're just going to soften this. To keep the stencil in place, I've used stencil spray from Cadence, which is a brilliant spray, because I've tried lots of different sprays, and the Cadence one is by far the best. It doesn't string, it doesn't go gloopy and make it doesn't string, and then you'll end up with all little bits in your ink. That's not nice. But the Cadence one is very, very, very good. Really, really good. And it does take quite a lot to impress me, because I've been around quite a bit. Been doing this for quite a while. And I've seen a lot of products come and go. So just before you take your stencil off, just go in and have a look and see where you need to blend. So there's a little bit of red there in that green. So I'm just going to soften it through and make it look like it's meant to be there. There's a little bit of blue going into that red. So I'm just going to soften that around. I'm not bothered about the colours overlapping, but I don't want a harsh line where they do. So just go around and have a look, like there. I need a little bit more yellow on there just to blend that out. And a little bit more red down here just to blend that green through. So once I now remove this is the fun bit. And then pull that off. It doesn't leave any residue on your paper, but you're starting to get this fabulous background. And I've chosen squares because if you look here, they're all the way through. There's diamonds, there's squares across the paths, and it starts to give you this background which you can then start to play with, which is lovely. So the next stencil I'm going to use is this one. And again, this was one that I made on my Scan and Cut. So all I created of this stencil was that bit. So I just took circles and put circles inside circles to create a frame, and then overlapped them and welded that bit. Then I took that bit and twisted it and welded it to there, took that bit, rotated it, welded it, and we ended up with this whole stencil going on, which I think is really cool. If you haven't got a Scan and Cut, I know Create and Craft sell loads and loads and loads of different stencils. But if you're in the market for one, or you think that this year might be the year, then this is the kind of thing that you can do with it. It is a phenomenal machine. Right, so let's go in now. I should really dry this off, but I haven't brought my heat gun in, I don't think. No, I haven't. It'll be fine. We'll do this, and if it's not, I've got one ready. So I'm just gonna go over now. Right, I need to stencil, I need to spray this. So I'm gonna just pop that back over there. It's gonna bleed that ink. Andrew, can you just send Amanda a WhatsApp or somebody a WhatsApp to ask if they can bring my heat gun in, please? And while we're doing that, I'm going to jump onto, well, actually, while we're waiting for that, I'll show you what's coming up tomorrow. This is exciting. Sorry, I should have thought about that. It's been one of those mornings where we've been running around like headless chickens. So this is the fairy godmother. She's fabulous. She's sassy. She's got attitude. She's definitely not a size 10. Not that there's anything wrong with being a size 10, but most of us aren't. And she is just fabulous. So you get her in 2 different sizes with her little wand and her wings if you want to put them on. I loved colouring her in. It was really good fun. You also get the castle, so you can build up the castle. You get all the roses and the ivy and these little star strings as well that cut into your card. You get a beautiful carriage, which is just lovely. You get unicorns, as my Alice would say. It's a unicorn, Nana. You get unicorns. You get 4 different ones of those. And then you get your papers as well. So we'll go through that a little bit more. I'm hoping somebody's coming in with my heat gun. Yay! It's Amanda. She's here. Thank you, darling. Sorry, I forgot. Is there a plug socket? Can you just plug it in for me over there, darling, please? Teamwork, eh?
Hello, everybody.
Oh, they won't be able to hear you. Not my love. You might have to lift that up a bit for me. Pop it under there. Where are we going? There you go. There you go. Right, we're on. Excellent. Right, thank you. So, heat gun. So why am I using a heat gun? It's not, when you use a distress oxide, it's a pigment and dye blend. So a dye-based ink will dry quite quickly. A pigment ink is more open because it was made originally, a pigment ink was always for putting embossing powder on. Obviously, as people come into the industry like Tim Holtz and change things, that slightly changes, but it is a pigment dye mix. So as soon as I started to blend there with my stencil, it wanted to move that red ink. Once it's heat set, it won't move. So I'm just going to heat set it. So get yourself a really good heat gun. The one I use is a Sizzix one. And I buy the Sizzix because it has 2 heat settings. It has a low heat, which is for drying, and then it has a high heat for melting. And it's a really good heat gun. So if you're in the market for one of those, I would definitely recommend the Sizzix one. And I'm just going to dry this ink off before I go over with my second stencil. But this could be a card front, could be the top of the box. It could be, you know, that you create something like this and do it in a tin. It's lovely. And I'd really, really love it if when you've done some tins, and if you would post pictures on the Quirky Bird Facebook page so I can see what you're up to. And it's not about, oh, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't put it on because it's not good enough. Well, do you know what? If you're happy with it, it's good enough. And it would be really nice to be able to see what you're all doing. And also, if you've got anything that you'd like to see in a tin, I can't guarantee we'll do everyone, but because it has to be that, you know, more than a few people would like it. But yeah, it would be really nice to see what you're making, because I have a whole little community. And this year we're going to start an artist trading card club for Quirky Bird. So you'll take a little die and you'll make a little card, and on the back of it you'll put your name and address and the number, and then you'll swap them, which I think will be really cool too. So there's lots of good stuff coming this year, which is very exciting. Right, so now I've dried that off. I'm not going to do the whole of this stencil, I'm just going to use certain areas. And I'm going back to my speckled egg, and I'm just going to go over the top of here like this and just add a little bit of this blue in here. There we go, that's better. And just go in and pick up and just add. Now I don't want this to detract from everything else that's on here. I just want it to go over the top. Okay, so just a little bit here and there, and then pick it up. You see you're starting to get this pattern going through. And then I'm going to put some more up here. So just over here like this, go over the yellow, I'm not worried about that. Pick up some more and just go here and there, and it creates this really lovely fluid background. And every single time you do it, it will be different, which is great. Bear with, I've got a bit of paper stuck on the back of my stencil there. And that's the lovely thing about it. And, you know, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't sure what art journaling was all about. And then I heard Leonie say, well, it's just about, you know, doing stuff for you just because you can. I was like, well, that's the whole ethos of Quirky Bird. So the two together should work perfectly. And they do, which is lovely. And I do enjoy it. You know, over Christmas, I was determined, because I hadn't really had any time off last year. I was determined that I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to chill out, and I wasn't going to do any crafting because that would end up being for work. And I was adamant that I was just going to chill out for a couple of weeks, which I did. But I did go in and do some art journaling as well, because my hands got a little bit itchy. My husband said, you're getting a bit tetchy, Melanie, you need to go and do something creative, because he knows me very well by now. When I sit there and do that, he knows I need to go and make something. Otherwise I'll drive him crazy. So we're just going to pop a little bit more down here. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year. I certainly had a nice rest, but now I'm like ready to go again, which is fab. Right, a little bit more down here maybe, just a touch down here. And I think that will do. So you've now got this lovely arty background that you can start to be creative on top of, which I think is nice. I'll show you the one I did this morning because it is slightly different. I used slightly different colours. I used a little bit of a brighter turquoise there, but you could do both. You know, you could have both side by side. It's a lovely thing to do. Right, so next, what we need to do now is work on our layout. I'm just going to blast this off with my heat gun really quickly. I know it's not very nice to listen to because it's a bit in your ears, but it won't take me long. Just don't want to smudge it as I'm going along. This would be lovely in a frame. You know, if you've got quite a nice big frame with a mount round it, this would be lovely. So I'm going to put my die cut detail in now, and then I'm going to go in with some fine liners. And we do our Craftmaster Flexi fine liners, so these are really cool. You get 20, I want to say 24. Yeah, 24 colours. And they have a slightly different nib to normal. They're not a fibre nib. Well, they kind of are, but they're not a fibre nib that you would normally think of as a fine liner. And they are super fine and they're flexible. So you can go do really fine lines to really thick lines. And these are supposed to be $19.99 for you guys. Just because we love you all and because it's New Year, we're going to do them today at £5 a box. £5 for 24 fine liners till Sunday, and I'll give you all the codes at the end so that you know. Right, so I've got 2 rectangles that are the same image. Okay, so I've got 2 here. Now if I put that there, I'm going to lose some of this little bit of stenciling down here, but I can always add a bit in. So if I put that there, I can always go in, get my stencil back here and just put an extra little block down there. Rather than thinking, oh no, I can't put it there, just add to it. That's the thing. Just, you know, go, right, okay, so I want to do this here, and to do this here, I need to do that. And just add a little bit of this in here. So let's move some of this yellow. And I know I used to always need to have a plan. You know, when I first started in this industry, I was like, right, this is the card I'm going to make. This is what it's going to look like. And guess what? It never did. And I used to get really cross. And now I'm just like, right, just do it. Just start. Because until you start, nothing makes sense. So I'm going to pop this down here now. So I've got my 2 pieces, one there and one down here. And I've got this nice little element now coming in here. Right, I'm happy with that. Then I've got... oh, Melanie, you and ink. It don't matter how clean I try and be, I get ink everywhere. So I'm going to then pop this one, which is a different picture, but I love the way that the hills go up and down like that. It's a bit like Teletubby Land. Oh, it used to drive me crazy, that programme, but it is a bit like that. And that's kind of replicated in the circles, which is why I chose the circles. So the squares came from the patchwork here in the door, the checkerboard, and then the circles came from the hills and the little topiary trees in the background. So I'm taking a shape that's in the image and continuing it through the whole project. Then I've got this, which is one of the arches, because we bought you the doorway dies with this. So I've got the large one there, and then I've got a smaller one here. Okay, so I never stick anything down until I'm absolutely sure that that's what I want to do. I'm going to pop the bottle one here, and I love the fact that upside down the keyhole looks like the bottle that's in the picture. You'd think we planned it, wouldn't you? Hey? It's fabulous. I love it. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to have those 2 there. So I've now got my layout, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to stick it down. This is when I always do this. Take it off and then forget what I've done and do it completely differently. So take a picture. My phone is jam packed full of pictures of things like this, so I don't forget where I've been, because I always do. Right, so glue. I am going to use my Pin Flare bookbinding glue, which is also on our website. It's a really good glue. For those of you that have never used this, it's a very low water content glue because it is made for binding books. The clue's kind of in the name. And it dries really quickly. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but just enough. And you need the tiniest amount. If you've got more on than that, you're using too much. It also has a really, really fine nozzle. And the finer the nozzle, because if you've got a nozzle that's quite wide on the bottle of glue, what happens is if you leave the lid off, which I do on a regular basis, the air gets into the top and it dries it and it blocks down that nozzle. The nozzle on this glue is so fine, it literally is like the shaft of a pin. It really is very, very fine. The air can't get in. So you will get a little skin that forms over the top because the glue that's around the outside has dried, but it never blocks, which is super cool, unless you leave your lids off, of course, or go hacking at the nib and make the hole wider. But it is a really good glue. In fact, I use all pin flare glue because it's never let me down. It's a good price and it's a really good product. So I'm going to pop that into the middle there. And then I'm going to put this one back in position down here. So all I'm doing is just going around the edge. What you'll find sometimes with a coated cardstock, is that if you put too much glue on and then you press it down, so if you've got thick lines, when you press it down, you'll see it through the card. And you don't want that. So just around the edges and just a small amount. You don't need any more than that. It will do the job. Then I'm going to position that there like that, which I think looks lovely. It brings in another shape, which is cool. Like that. And if you have any questions, just post them in the chat or join us on our Facebook page, and then any questions, we'll see them and we can answer them for you. And hopefully this year, when we get our training school up and running, our teaching school, we might be able to do some of these face to face. How nice would that be? To come and meet you all. Oh, that would be lovely. And of course, we've got Sandown as well at the end of this month. So if you fancy coming and seeing us at Sandown, the whole team will be there. We've got make and takes, got loads of demonstrations going on. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. I love going out and about, meeting you all. It's fantastic. So now I'm going to put my largest one there in the middle, and then I'm going to move that one slightly up. So I'm creating, again, using threes. So I've got 3 of those. I've only got 2 of those, but I've got 3 of my bottles as well. So let's glue these in place, and then we can start to use our die cuts. Don't forget, you can print off the free reflections if you haven't done so already. Just go to highlightcrafts.com, search Quirky Bird, and the reflections will be there for you to download for free. And then eventually what we do is we put this artwork on for you as well that you can download. So rather than keep buying the paper packs, which I know can get a bit frustrating because I am you. I am a crafter, genuinely, I am a crafter. This is, you know, it's nice to just be able to have that artwork and print it off. Right, so we've got the basics of our page now. So what we need to do now is get rid of all this stuff, and bring in our little box of goodies. I love trays like this. It's like the best pick and mix in the world. I love it. So I'm going to pop my brushes away, then they're out of the way. Otherwise I'll get ink everywhere. And then we'll have a play around and put some little pieces together. Now, what I like to do is kind of treat each one as an individual and then link them together. So let's start with Alice herself, or the curious one. We didn't actually call her Alice, did we? We called her the curious one. And also a couple of these little fences. So I might have a fence going here like this. Move that out of the way. So when I'm doing something really fine like that, this glue is perfect. Because of the super fine nib, I can literally just hold my die cut up like that and just pop a little bit of glue on each one of those elements. It's going in a book, so I'm not particularly worried about it lifting, you know, about the ends curling up a little bit, because it will be in a book, so it'll be contained. So I'm not particularly worried about that. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue where the die cut allows me to, because they are super, super fine, which is good because you don't want really big, thick, bulky dies, but sometimes when gluing it, it's a little bit tricky. Or The other way around it is to either put some glue on the back of your hand, dip your die cut into there, or put some on some acetate glass mat. If you're going to put glue on a glass mat, remember two things. First of all, the glass mat is always cold, so it will make the glue dry quicker, because it hits that cold and it just kind of shrinks back a little bit. And also you need to wash it off straight away, because trying to get dried on glue off a glass mat is a nightmare. It's really hard and it's not nice. And then when you come to cut on your mat or do some inking on your mat, it's an uneven surface. So just make sure that you do that. Now I'm actually going to put another one there. I don't care, it doesn't matter that it goes into the top of here, because it's Alice. You know, it's that quirkiness, isn't it? So it really doesn't matter. I'll just show you this way of doing it as well. I'm sure most of you will know this, but you never know. And as I've got new faces, which is very lovely, welcome to the Quirky Bird family. Delighted with that. We're now just going to push that into the glue like that. Just remember before you go out to your supermarket to pull that off, because you get very strange looks at checkout if you don't. Right, so I'm going to pop that onto there like so, and just press that down. Give it a second or two to grab, and then we can lift that off. So we've now got our fences in here, which I'm happy with. Let's have a look what else we've got. Let's start and have a play. So let's put Alice in first of all, or the curious one in, and let's have her here. So she's going to stand against there. I'm happy with that. So let's straight away go in and position her and put her down here like this. So she's going to stand there. I'm having a foot just on the bottom edge of that piece there. And then her other foot, which is slightly lifted, just at the side there. So I'm not sticking her just randomly in midair. I'm thinking about what this little scene here is going to look like. So I'm using individual pieces at the moment. I want a rabbit, and I want the rabbit to face Alice. So I'm going to have him there. So I'm using the bottom edge there to put his higher foot on, and the lower one is going to stand on part of that stenciling, because it now gives you other areas to ground your characters in, which I think is really cool. If you've just got a white background and you hang it over the edge, it looks like it's floating. Whereas if you've done a little bit of ink work in the background, even if it's just, you know, kind of using your inks with your blending brushes without a stencil, just adding some colour in there. Or what you could do as well is use the dies. So the die shapes, they've got the rectangles and the archways and the keyhole out. If you use that with a thin acetate and you have a metal shim with your die cutting machine, you can make your own stencil out of those. So that might be something that you want to do. The smaller rectangles that come in the set, you know, the smaller shapes, you could use those. It will take a little bit of doing, but you know what? It's worth it. That's what we do. We're creatives, aren't we? So I'm going to pop another one. I'm going to pop another one there, I think. Well, let's see what else we do first. Let's just think about this little bit here. So what else do I want in there? Well, I might like a mushroom. I do like these little toads. Well, they're not that little, are they? The toadstool. And I'm going to come off the page now and position that there. So we're now starting to build and kind of intertwine everything together. So a little bit of glue on the back of here. I didn't just want to do a tin this time because we've done a few of those and we also did one in the show, and I'll also be doing a tin from start to finish tomorrow. So I thought doing something a little bit different was quite nice, and it gives you something to use all the, you know, the apertures that you cut out once you put them in your tin. You need something to be able to do with those because you're not going to throw those away. So I thought this was a really nice idea. So now I've got the other white rabbit down here. So just make sure all the little landlocked areas are poked out, and I'm going to have him just sat down here on that little bit of stenciling that we did earlier on. So he's kind of coming a little bit lower down, which is nice because it's balancing everything out now. Super cute. This little pocket watch. You can't help but go, I'm late for a very important date. You could write little quotes, couldn't you, on here with your fine liners. That would be a really cool thing to do as well. I might have to do a whole book like this. Not right now, of course, because I've got loads of stuff to do, but I might have to do a whole book because my granddaughter would love this. being called Alice. She was very funny for Christmas. She just got everything that she wanted, was just crafty. I was like, girl, it was good fun. And then she was poorly, so she couldn't come and craft very much. So this weekend I'm going home and we're going to have a make it day, she calls it, in Nana's make it room, which is super cute. But yeah, she had chicken pox. I kept messaging her every day. I'm like, how are you? She said, itchy. It's like, oh, I remember that. I had chicken pox. So imagine, 7 years old, naturally red hair, not like this colour, ginger hair. 1976, hottest summer on record. And guess who had chicken pox? Honestly, I have a photograph somewhere of me sat outside the front door on a deck chair, covered head to toe in calamine lotion, like Mr. Blobby. Right, I'm going to pop that bottle there at the end of that fence, like that. And you could write drink me on there if you wanted to. So you can see it's now starting to flow a little bit better. So let's put another Alice in. Let's have her stood, that's quite cool, on top of this one down here. Quite like that, it gives it some height and it makes her stand out. And it's also, this is quite an open space. There's detail in it, but it's not as much detail as some of the other papers. So this would be nice for her to be on here. So we'll pop another Alice over there. And again, I might have her just stood on the top of that bottle and coming across. Whenever I'm doing things like this, where you're putting shapes next to each other, I would never overlap them. So I would never do, let me just grab this and I can show you. I would never do, and I'm just going to turn this over so that you can see, oh, in fact, I'll bring this in. I would never do this. So I'd never have a piece there and then another piece that lines up perfectly on the side, because it doesn't quite look right. As long if it's lined up straight to the edge there, it doesn't quite work. And then if you did another one like that, it's not as interesting. Whereas just by moving that over there, bringing that one down here and maybe putting that one up there like that so it doesn't overlap, it's just more interesting. So have a play around with different compositions, but try not to line them up, because you get this more quirky, I guess is the word, hence Quirky Bird. You get more of that, you know, that look to it, which is nice. Right, let's find, I need something else. Oh, topiary tree. Let's have a little topiary tree. I do like these. You'll find within a collection, there'll be something that you use a lot. And for me in this collection, it was the rabbits and it was also this topiary tree. And I'm really pleased we did this because it's lovely. And actually this will work with the Fairy Godmother collection. It would work with the Curious one. It will work with all sorts of, the Confident Fairy. It'll work with all sorts of different ones. And I think that's the lovely thing about Quirky Bird as well. It's not just, right, this works with that. We try and make it work with lots of different things. And the papers too. I mean, this is quite different being Alice inspired. So you might not get away with putting the Confident Fairy in the middle of there. It might not quite look right because she's meant to be in the woodland, but things like the topiary tree you could absolutely get away with, and especially with the Fairy Godmother, that would look fabulous. And then bringing them all together is just so much fun. So I'm going to pop another mushroom down here on this side. So I'm working around and making sure I'm not putting these in a straight line either. So I've got a diagonal here, I've got one there, but then this one's going to drop down a little bit further. So it's just thinking about the story, you know, and you can either do the whole thing as one big story, or you can treat each little section as a separate little picture, which I quite like to do that. Now I've also got some little flowers here, or a little flower by the look of it, that's had the little leaves put to the side. So I could just pop that on the corner there. That would look rather nice. And I tend to use tweezers quite a lot as well when I'm doing this. I find it's easier as my hands are getting older. Reverse tweezers are the best by far. It just makes life so much simpler. And then just to add, I could just add another little rose there. So just in the corner there. And I'll get Andrew to photograph this, and again, we'll put this on the Quirky Bird Facebook page so that you can see the layout. And I'll also get the other background photographed as well, so you can see how it's built up. You can watch this back anytime, so you'll get a link that will allow you to watch this class back over and over and over again, which is great, because there's nothing worse than going on a class and then go, what did she say about that? I can't remember. So I love the fact that we send this out for you. Right, so I've got him here. So I'm going to bring another one of him over this side, and then I'm going to do the same with this rabbit and bring one up here. So I'm going to have him stood. Let's have a look. Will he work there? Yeah, actually he does. I didn't think he would with having his leg hanging over, but it's like he's perched on top. So I'm all right with that. And I am really funny about layout and composition. It's one of my favourite things because it can make or break a project, you know, and use the edges that you've got to add, because then, you know, it's not just like that's one block, that's another, that's another. It all starts to blend together. And now I can see that I might get away with another Alice up here, but I think what I'll do is have a smaller one, and I'll have her just stood there. So this is the nice thing about having the different sizes. You get the different sizes, and the smaller one is always facing in a different direction to the larger one. So again, you can have her facing one way and have her facing the other, which I'm used to having anyway with scan and cut, but with die cutting it's different because it means you've got two dies in effect. So doing it as the same image but flipped in a smaller size works really, really well. So I've got that one there. I need something down here. I might put another little Alice down here as well, but just make it your own. I learned a long time ago that I used to look at what Tim Holtz did and what different crafters did and think, wow, I'd love to be able to do that. And then when I attempted it, I was like, because it didn't look like theirs, but it looked like mine. And I was like, but that's not really my style. So you can take people's ideas, but put your spin on it, because you stamp your personality on it. And that makes a massive difference, I think, because then it feels familiar. It's lovely. It's a lovely thing to do. And just to sit, you know, one weekend and just play, I think is an absolute joy. Just go in your room and forget all the rubbish that's going on around in the world and just sit and be creative just because you want to be creative. That's kind of why we get into it in the first place. You know, unless you're making to sell, it's kind of, yeah, I do this because I love it. It's a hobby, isn't it? You know, that's why we do it. So I'm just using my glue again and just popping a tiny amount on here. You really don't need much of that glue at all. And then I'm going to have him. So I'm going to have his back leg there, just sat on top of there like that. So we're now starting to build up our page. Right, the next thing I want is some of these little bottles. And we're going to start adding in our little extra detail embellishments now. I think I've got the characters in that I want. I don't want it overdone, because then you kind of lose the integrity of it. But I can now start to add little embellishments. So we can go in, I'm going to add a little bottle down here, because there's a bottle on there. And I've got one there already. So I'm thinking about my design triangle again. I'm going to bring another one over here, like this. And tomorrow I'm on at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Create and Craft. And then Wednesday I'm on at 8 a.m. It's that 4:30 in the morning start, which I really don't like. But it is what it is. So I'll be with you at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And then 10 a.m. on Craft Extra on Wednesday. But at the weekend, starting on Friday, our lovely team, so Stephanie, Hannah, David, I think's down there as well, are bringing you, it's a year since we came to the craft store. Can't believe it's a year. I don't know where that year's gone, but it's flown by. I know that much. So we're having our anniversary shows. So Hannah's doing 2 Red Robins. Stephanie is doing painting with metallics from Cadence, which is very exciting. They are stunningly beautiful. A Year of Flowers she's doing. So if you're into your painting pages. And David is doing Minecraft Studio, I think. So really nice, good weekend for you to look forward to. I love it when I look at the Create and Craft schedule in the morning and there's really good stuff on. I'm like, oh, that's a great day. Can learn loads of stuff today. So yeah, check us out at the weekend. It's great fun. Right, so I've got a key. I'm gonna put them in different directions. So I'm gonna have them straight or either vertically or horizontal. And just to add in some almost like direction to the page. So I'm going to pop that down there. Oh, need to move that a bit further down. Don't want it overlapping that row, so I want it there. There we go. So we've got that there. And then I can take another one and just take the time to pop out all those little unlocked areas. And actually in the middle of the key, you'll see there's a little heart. So save that because that will be good for other embellishments. I know it's tiny, but reverse tweezers are amazing. Just need to get rid of that little bit there, otherwise that'll annoy me. And this will make a great picture. You know, you go somewhere like the Range or IKEA and you buy yourself an inexpensive frame. It's fabulous. So we'll have another one going across there like that. And then I'll put one there, I think. I might put one here as well. So, got my little compartments. So when this class is done, I'm going to go and empty all these into a different box and fill it up again for tomorrow. For the next instalment, which is lovely. It's going to be an exciting year, I think, this year for Quirky Bird. We've got some really cool ideas coming through. So, yeah, it's good. It's always a bit scary when, so for 17 years, well, it'll be 18 years this year, I've represented other brands and I've been their ambassador or demonstrator or whatever you want to call it. So when you come to do your own, it's a little bit daunting. And it's also completely different to anything else that's out there, I think. So it's like, they're going to like it or they're not. But I think it's starting to build now, which is lovely. And then when we do the ATC card swaps, that'll be good fun too. Because it doesn't take too long to do. It's not, you know, costing you much, and then you'll get something from somebody else. And that might inspire you to then try something like their style. And it's just a lovely community that we can build together, which is great. Right, I have some little pocket watches here. These are lovely. You could put some glaze on these if you wanted to make them a little bit shiny like the glass. That would be nice. And remember, everything on here is flat. But because you've got all these different little areas and you've got so much going on in the background, you know, it works. And if you're not somebody that likes lots of stuff, if you like minimal stuff, then absolutely just do a little piece. You know, it doesn't matter what your style is. There's something in here that will work. And that's why I like to see what everybody's doing, because you know, we all inspire each other. Just because we do it for a living doesn't mean to say that we don't, you know, still need inspiration. And it's lovely to see what everybody else is doing and how they're putting their spin on it. It is really exciting. So I'm going to pop another one of those there. And I'm really nosy. That's the other thing. I like to see what's going on. So I've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pop another one up there, which gives me 4, and then see if I've got one more, which I have. Yay! Stuck that down before I even checked. These little compartments. This box I got from the Range. It's from, I want to say, Wham. People always ask me on air where I got my boxes from, and I'm like, I can't tell you on air because it's advertising. I tell you, it's not that simple when you go on telly. You have to think about it, or everything that you say. And the minute you drop the ball and become relaxed, somebody picks up on it. It is what it is. Right, let's get some flamingos on. I used to love that, watching Alice in Wonderland. When you watch it as a child, it's very different to when you watch it as a grown-up. It's quite dark, isn't it? You don't realise that as a child. But as you get older, you're like, wow, okay. That's not what I thought it was. So let's pop one there. I do like it though. There's a whole Alice in Wonderland experience going around the country, I believe. I'm going to see if I can get tickets to go. It looks amazing. It's been advertised on Instagram quite a bit recently, and I was like, oh, that looks really good. So I'll have a look out for that too. Coming to a city near you, maybe. Right, so let's add these little bits in here. And then, where can I put this one? Let's put that one there, because I've got a little bit of space there. And then finally, well, almost finally, I say that and then change my mind. These little teacups, because this just brings joy. So we'll have a little stack of teacups. Let's have a look where that will work. That'll work there. And don't think that you have to work within the constraints of the inking or anything like that. It can be whatever you want it to be, wherever you want them to go. And if you're happy with it and you like it, then you can stop. People always say, how do you know when to stop? Well, the answer to that is when you're happy with it, isn't it? Really? It's your project, your design. If you're happy with it, then it's finished. Right, let's pop one. I haven't really left much space here, have I, for myself? Making it difficult. Right, let me find a space there. Perfect, that'll do. So, tuck that behind that pocket watch to add a little bit of perspective. So I've got two, I need one more somewhere. I can't do even numbers. I have to do odd numbers, it's ingrained in me now. This one could go there, that works. And it's just building up your composition layer by layer by layer. And it's funny, you know, when you watch the mixed media shows, and I know a lot of people that I've spoken to are like, oh, I'm not sure, I don't think I could do that, I wouldn't know where to start. It's no different doing this, because you're using ink, you're using a paper, you're using card, you're using glue. This is mixed media, you know. Mixed media can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be dark and grungy and inky and painty and messy, and it's just using different mediums. That's what it means. It's just mixing up the mediums that you're using. So I was exactly the same. I was like, oh no, I'm not, no, that scares me a little bit because I don't do messy crafting. But again, when you kind of forced into it, went to Cadence and it was like, right, you're going on this course and this is what you're doing. And I absolutely loved it. It was so freeing because you just got immersed in it. And I know the team from Cadence coming over to us this year, so that's very exciting, really exciting, because we'll be able to learn loads of stuff. And there's one thing that I really want to learn, and I want to specialise in it, and it's a structure paste that has like lots of fibres in it, almost like pulp in it, and you pick it up you colour it, and then you pick it up on a palette knife, and you create flowers with it. Oh, it looks amazing. I really hope I can do it, because if I can, it'll become an obsession. I know what I'm like, it looks amazing. As soon as I went to Cadence, and that's like 3 years ago now, and I saw that, I was like, I want to do that. It was one of those where I looked at it and went, that's my thing. Right, so we've got now to this stage here, and I actually think that's kind of done as far as die cuts, etc., and bits and pieces are concerned. So we're just going to come in with my fine liners here, and I'm actually going to take the black one, and I'm just going to add a little bit of detail here and there. So just a line, and it doesn't need to be straight, and a little wiggle, and then a line and a little wiggle, and a line and a little wiggle. And then I'm going to do another one across here like this. They're really good if you're into your mindful moodling with Lou Withers, or if you're into your Zentangle, anything like that. These are really good pens. And just to show you what I mean about a flex nib, you can go really fine like that, but if you work it on the side, you can also get a thicker line. And they're £5 for 24 of them. And it's a nib, like a fibre nib that creates it's a mesh nib is what it is. And it creates a capillary action. So as soon as you put pressure on that nib, it draws the ink through, so it never goes patchy. And to get those for £5 is an absolute bargain. In fact, I'm going to buy several packs because they'll do for birthday and Christmas presents. So stock up with those because you don't want to miss them. And they work in your Brother Scan and Cut with a universal pen holder. Just when you're using them with if you are going to do that, just a note, because they are a flexible nib, they can bend slightly when you're using them. So drop your draw pressure right down, probably as low as it can go and still get a line, and then you don't get that bend as much. But they are really good in a universal pen holder, and for a £5 they're great presents, aren't they, for crafty friends, or even, you know, kids that are at school, university. So all I'm doing is just going in and adding a little bit of detail here and there, bringing that black through, you know, the black, the checkerboard black that's coming through here. But really nice, they're a really smooth pen. You know, when sometimes you get them that are scratchy, they're not scratchy at all. They're really lovely to use, and a bargain at that. Right, so if I just do a few more bits around here, like this, and then I'll do a little bit at the top here. Just go in, and it's just those finishing touches that makes it yours, that makes it personal, that just brings that extra level of creativity into there. Even do some around the stencil bits, areas that you've done there. Just, you know, take your time and enjoy the process. A bit more up there. And then I'm going to get Andrew to zoom in on it for you so that you can see it nice and clearly in full. And don't worry about them being straight lines. When I first started Zentangling, which is many, many years ago, I used to use a ruler. I did. I used to go on there with a ruler, draw my lines out, draw my grids out, because I was obsessed with this symmetry thing. And I have to say, doing stuff like this has really helped get rid of that. I still love symmetry, but I can also do things like this where it's not symmetrical now, which I wouldn't have been able to do a few years ago. I'd have been like, no, that's not me. But it's just, you know, that little bit of fun. And then always sign your work. So I'm just going to put MJH at the bottom. And what date is it today? 9th of the 1st, 2023. So you can have a record of where you started and where you've gone. I'm going to move it over here. Is that all right? A bit more. Oh, hang on, I'm going to throw everything off my desk here, Andrew. About there. That'll do. Andrew's the voice in my ear, in case you're wondering. He's the man that's pressing all the buttons to move the cameras. And we'll get him to zoom right in, and then you can have a good look at this. But like I say, we'll photograph it and put it on the Facebook page for you as well, which I think is really important, because there's no point doing this and then you're thinking, well, I can't see it. Are we getting it in? Okay, fabulous. Right, so last things, I just want to go through what's happening tomorrow with you as well, which is super exciting. Codes, first of all, if you want to grab yourself a pen. So get yourself a pen, and then you can write this down. This code is live for you until Sunday at midnight. So the first one is capital C for Charlie, M for mother. Oh, it's there on the screen. There you go. Don't even need to read it out. That gives you 15% off everything Craftmaster. So your printing for your reflections, your paper for your reflections, tools, glitters, anything that's got Craftmaster on, your storage wallets, your binders, all that kind of thing. So you'll get 15% off, which is good. We like that. And if you're a Highlight Club member, you'll get your points. So good time to shop. I like the idea of having points. We did it with Tesco Club Points last year. I saved all my club points up over the year, and it paid for Christmas dinner, which was really good, because it was like sat here and I haven't paid for this. So that's your one for your Craftmaster. And then there's an F for Foxtrot, L for Lima, number 5, Mel. And that's to get your 19.99 fine liners for a £5. And I would get a couple of those. You can get 2 sets per code. That is an absolute bargain. Just saying. And they are really nice. I wouldn't tell you they weren't. I'm a bit of a pen snob. I'm obsessed with pens. I have been from being a little dot. I can remember every birthday, Christmas, Easter, new school term, I'd get new pencils, new felt tips, and it was the best thing ever. My dad was exactly the same. He loved things like that. Right, so let me just go back to our lovely fairy godmother. And it's interesting, Stephanie said, why don't you do a fairy godmother? And I was like, is it a bit fairy tale? Is it a bit young? And she said, and then I thought about it and I thought, no, I like her because she's not your typical fairy godmother in the little almost like wedding dress with the big skirt and the big wand and the tiara on. She's quite funky. I love her. I think she's like a over 50 fairy godmother. Do you know what I mean? I think she's got that sass and that confidence, and she's just like, I am who I am. I love that about her. But also, for me, a fairy godmother is, I hope that all of you have one, that's somebody in your life that you can absolutely turn to no matter what. Somebody that's got your back, that will listen to your moan, that will brighten your day, and just somebody that it doesn't matter how often you see them, you just pick up from where you left off. That for me is like a fairy godmother. So she is really cool, and I love the fact that she's got her glasses on the end of her nose, because that's what I do, isn't it, like that, when I give you that look when you haven't got your scanner cut out of the box. So she's really cool. So you get her, you will get the beautiful unicorn, little unicorn family. You get 4 dies in there. They're on a Swift, so you're not going to, they're on one plate, so you're not going to lose them, thank goodness. You've got this gorgeous carriage, which I think is lovely. And again, you've got a solid version, which would be lovely if you put it out just plain and either inked it or used embossing powder over, like a gold chunky embossing powder. That would look super cool. You get all your roses and your foliage, and then you get these little star flourishes, which cut into your card, which is lovely, a bit different. Then you've got your castle. And again, you can snip into this and make it bigger. So I'm just working on the boards at the moment to give you some inspiration. And then, of course, you've got her. And then you've got the papers. And these are quite a little bit different, some of these. So we started off with this one. Now, this one you could use for any of the fairies that we've done so far. So I'm consciously thinking about how do we choose papers that you can use with your other collections as well. So you've got the one with the moon. That would be nice with the enchanted elf as well, the Christmas one. You've got one with this almost like fairy tale flourish at the top with the little butterflies in, which is lovely. You've then got the one with the little bench, and you've got this kind of arbour around here, but the starlight at the top and the moonlight at the top. And then you've got 2 that are like this, quite abstract, but a landscape where you can build your own scenes, which I think is really nice. But this with the loving fairy, the carefree fairy, the confident fairy would even go on there because it's got some red in there and a bit of orange. And then a darker one. So you've got the landscape coming in the other way in different colour way. And then I've done 2 really funky ones that are really, really different. Almost a little bit, not space age, but a little bit just abstract, I guess, a little bit different. Excuse me. And you've got this really bright pop of colour. And I chose these because all your other fairies will go with these. And it's nice sometimes just to have that really bright, bold colour, and then you add on top of that. I'm going to start coughing again in a minute, this blinking cough. So those are your papers. So I would really love it if you can join me tomorrow at 4 p.m. If you can't, record the show or watch it back on repeats. It's been lovely spending an hour with you. There will be a Zoom class with this collection as well, so we'll do something different. In fact, what I might do is actually on the next one, if I'm going to do this, I need to write it in my diary because otherwise I'll forget. I might teach you how to colour her in, because then what we could do is put this out as a digital download for you and you could colour her in. But we'll decide what we're going to do. But thank you once again. It's been lovely. I hope you all had a lovely time and are going to go away. And please, 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 please put pictures of what you make, because I'm really nosy and I like to see it, and we can all share ideas and start to build this whole community. And when we launch the ATC Club, I'm going to have made loads of them so that I can start you all off. And I can send you those out, and then you can send me one, and we'll end up with this whole wall in one of the studios with all these ATCs on. And I just think that's going to be fabulous. And then we might design a book to go with it and a binder and all these fabulous things. So once again, thank you so much. And I will see you on tomorrow at 4 p.m. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.